Well, this anime follows the life of a traditional Japanese corporate slave. The guy had no romantic life and worked for hours on end. The pinnacle of his happiness was going out with his coworkers, visiting the girls on the job, and having a few drinks to spend some of the money he earned. As he walked home after having his soul sucked out by a beautiful girl, he was thinking about the kind of life he was living. Then he didn't notice the ice sky truck and ended up being dragged alive for 30 meters until he lost his life due to blood loss. After that tragic day, he was reincarnated in a fantasy world full of magical beings, heroes, and even demon kings. The first memory he has of this world is of being the sole survivor of a demon attack. He is found by a wizard called Merlin, who adopts him. He is given the name Shin and lives as Merlin's grandson, as the old man's only pupil, living in an area completely cut off from the world. Thanks to his knowledge and mindset of living in the modern world, he becomes exceptional at everything he does, be it magic or fencing. One day, Shin, who is only 8 years old, goes into the forest to hunt for his dinner. He hides in a bush, and with the help of his wind magic, he hunts down some unsuspecting chickens. He also catches a wild boar, and after being satisfied with the day's hunt, he goes home and shows them to Merlin, who is impressed that the boy has managed to kill a boar. He then decides to test Shin's magical ability and tells him to use basic flame magic. Shin does this by imagining the stove lighting up, and this causes him to create blue flames, which surprises his old man. And if there's one thing that makes Shin happy, it's that in this world, he doesn't have to recite spells, because he'd rather die than be a wizard who recites spells. Merlin from Boeing, his magic teacher, and Michael Cullen, who is actually his sword instructor, arrive at the cottage, and the old shit immediately scolds Shin for hunting a wild boar, which is basically a pest that reproduces like my hamsters. She says that hunting a boar is very dangerous for someone his age, but he explains that it's not that dangerous, considering that he used the magical equipment they made together and also received good training, both physical and magical. Little boy humiliating the old woman in the arguments. 2 years after all this shit, Merlin takes Shin to hunt some demons, because he believes the boy should fight some strong enemies. He explains that demons are born when normal animals can't control the magical energy that flows through them, which leads to a furious development, and this can also happen to humans, although it's very rare. A long time ago, a human turned into a demon and almost destroyed a nation, but fortunately this demon was defeated, and the one who defeated him ended up receiving the title of the nation's hero. He teaches Shin a magical search spell, which involves spreading the body's mana in a very thin layer over the entire surrounding area, and when his mana comes into contact with another magical signature, the mana reacts and identifies its location. Merlin says that it takes a long time to master this disgrace, but Shin hacks reality and manages to use this magic first time. What's more, Shin surpasses Merlin himself, managing to find creatures that are very far away. Suddenly, Shin senses a sinister energy coming from a place, as if a creature were filled with darkness. They rush to the spot and find a demon exuding the power of Hoth. The boy quickly draws his sword, and without hesitation, he launches himself towards the demon, setting his sword to vibrate at an ultrasonic level, and such power combined with his magic boots makes it take him just a second to eliminate the demon. It all happened so fast that Merlin didn't even manage to react or warn the boy that this creature is really powerful, and Shin, seeing Merlin standing there, just asked if he'd done something wrong. Merlin asks the kid what the fuck he did with the vibrating sword, but Shin keeps this power a secret, because in his past life, he used to have premature ejaculation, so he developed the ability to shake his hand like crazy. This ability, combined with magic, has allowed Shin to turn anything into a powerful cutting object. The next day, he receives brutal combat training from Michael. After the training, Merlin takes him to the mountains, where the old man reveals to the boy that he is not his real grandson, and that he was found in the middle of the wreckage of a demon attack. Shin asks about his real parents, but Merlin explains that they were unrecognizable after the demon attack. Shin has some vague memories of that day, and unfortunately, he has already accepted the fact that he doesn't have his parents. He tells his old man that he only considers him, old Merlin, Michael, and Melinda to be his family, because they were the ones who raised him. These words made Merlin burst into tears like a crying baby. After that, on his 15th birthday, everyone threw a party to celebrate his rise to adulthood. His family have brought some special guests to the party, including a man Shin calls his idiot uncle. This man always comes along with his 2 guards. During the party, they ask Shin what he would do when he became an adult, and he says that he would like to explore a nearby town because he has never left the forest. Besides, he has no purpose in life. The woman, called Christina, suggests that he join the Royal Knights or become a demon hunter. Everyone keeps giving their suggestions, and then Shin reveals that he doesn't even know how to charge for his service, as he was never taught how to use money. It turns out that Merlin only taught him about magic and nothing else, because he believes that Shin is intelligent enough to learn it himself. After that, everyone goes to an isolated place, through a gate that allows everyone to move to another place. It turns out that Shin is is going to give a demonstration of his power, and because of the boy's strength, it's best for him to do it in this place. Merlin tells them all to get ready, and tells Shin to show his power. Shin begins by imagining the fire of a stove, and this generates a blue flame. This shocks everyone, but that's only the beginning. Shin then adds hydrogen to his magic, and compresses the huge fireball into a single point, before firing it at a nearby hill. The resulting explosion is like a mini nuclear bomb, which is enough to scare everyone, especially Merlinda. This demonstration leads the group to conclude that it will be too risky to let a talented agent like Shin be a young vagrant, and they ask the king to hire him as his biological weapon of mass extermination. However, it is suggested to Shin that he enroll in a magic academy. However, Merlin doesn't like the idea because there are women at the academy, and they could manipulate Shin into destroying the world. As they talk, Shin finally realizes that the man he calls uncle is the king of a nation, and all those around him are powerful warriors of the realm. Long ago, during a demon invasion, Merlin and Melinda saved the nation from a demon attack, and they are the heroes of the stories. As well as being teammates, these old men are a couple, and imagining the two of them having sex at night while he studies makes him want to die. Everyone tells Shin that it would be nice if he became a student, but he has to watch out for magical girls, especially those with blue hair, because they are irresistible. Shin thinks all this is silly, but agrees to go to the academy because he wants to learn about the world. The king tells Shin that at the magic academy he created, he uses meritocracy to determine the best students, so he doesn't have to worry about not being of noble origin. Everything is agreed, and now Shin will study at an academy. A few days later, Shin, along with Merlin and Melinda, leaves for the capital to take the entrance exam. When they arrive in the capital, a guard goes crazy when he sees Merlin and Melinda together. After all, these two are the most powerful and respected heroes in the kingdom. News of their arrival spreads like wildfire through the city, so they rush to their mansion, where they are greeted by tons of maids and butlers. Shin is surprised by his family's fortune, but ignores it and has fun exploring things, but he eventually gets lost in an alley and suddenly hears screams from a grotto being harassed by 3 adventurers. Shin, disgusted by their behavior, sets out to help the girl, and one of the guys tries to hit him, but he's too slow for Shin and easily dodges. He throws the man to the ground in an instant and knocks out the second with a swift kick. The third guy quickly picks up a dagger and runs towards Shin, but he simply intercepts the dagger with his hand and hits the man with a quick punch. After such a display of power, the girl who was saved by him asks if he's hurt anywhere, and Shin reveals that his third leg has been injured and that she needs to help him stop the bleeding. The girl was actually going to do it, but a friend of hers shows up to thank Shin, and our hero ends up falling in love with this new character at first sight. The girls introduce themselves as Maria and Cecile, and he discovers that they are also attending the Magic Academy. What's more, the two are also big fans of the great heroes and are also excited that a relative of theirs is joining the academy. Shin suddenly becomes uncomfortable, and he doesn't want to reveal his identity, so he goes and pays for the girls' drinks and leaves. On the day of the exam, Shin tries to find his way through the board of governors, but a very rude nobleman tries to grab him by the shoulder. However, he twists the guy's arm as a safety measure, and the very angry boy, named Aikichi, uses his position as a nobleman to try to threaten Shin. Fortunately, the crown prince, August, shows up, and Shin remembers the punishment for using his position as a noble at school, putting Kurt in his place. Kurt decides to just leave, as no one wants any kind of rivalry with the royal family. Shin is shocked to discover that he is the son of the king, who in this case is the man he considers an uncle. He ends up calling August his cousin, making the guy laugh at the way Shin has acted so casually towards the crown prince. Fortunately, August doesn't seem to mind at all. They all take the written exam in one room, and then move on to the practical exam. Shin is super excited to see other people using magic, but he is shocked when a boy starts humming in front of everyone, only to conjure up a measly flame. Everyone seems impressed, except Shin, who is getting disgusted. After all, the next candidate didn't do any better than the first, and neither did the one after that. Shin can only watch in disappointment, and when it's his turn, the instructor tells him to keep his powers under control. After all, the instructor himself has been warned by the king that this boy is going to be the kingdom's future killing machine. He's going to sausage everyone, even keeping his power to a minimum. Shin destroys the entire test room. That's how he passed. On the day they pick up their uniform, the receptionist reveals that their outfits have been enchanted with defensive magic and asks the students not to enchant them. In response, Shin asks if he can let Melinda do it, so she agrees and adds that he was the top scorer at the entrance exam, so he has to give a speech at the admission ceremony. Shin immediately tries to force August to do this, as he is the crown prince, but the prince plays his cards very well, reminding Shin of the rule that in this academy power comes before nobility. Saddened, Shin focuses on enchanting his clothes with a special pen. He invents his own enchantment, which not only acts as a perfect defense, but also allows automatic healing and the generation of mana from kinetic energy, which leaves Melinda shocked. She then makes Shin promise that he won't reveal to anyone that he has enchanted his own uniform, to which the boy agrees. At the entrance ceremony, Shin's name is called out in his speech, and the girls finally realize that he is the great hero's grandson, and obviously they are already getting wet. After all, they have already met the hero's son and been saved by him. Well, Shin calmly makes his speech, while Kurt overflows with anger and hatred, itching to take a shot and kill himself. After that, Shin, August, and the prettier ones are placed in the S-rank class, and everything was normal, until Cecily reveals that she is being stalked by a man whose family has a higher rank than hers. Shin ends up being happy that she told him. Now he can protect her, and he soon realizes that the man is Kurt. He enters and tries to grab Cecily tightly. Then Shin stops him, and Kurt reveals that the two of them are engaged, so Shin thinks about backing down and respecting it. But seeing this beautiful grotto trembling with fear, he decides to protect her. Fortunately, she says that she never agreed to the engagement, and that he should stop forcing her to marry him. But Kurt says that her father might make her regret not marrying him. It's at this point that August steps forward, and says that if Kurt continues, he'll have to report that an ugly turd like him is threatening a beautiful cave, using the noble rank in a school where nobility should be worthless. So, again thanks to the prince, Kurt leaves. Once this is done, August teases Shin, saying that he is showing off his courage in front of a beautiful grotto, which makes Shin feel ashamed, and due to the fear of the grotto being harassed on the way home, Shin decides to escort her, and Maria agrees immediately, as this is a perfect opportunity for her to get to know the great hero's son better. August also decides to accompany him, so the prince's companion, the one with the eyes and Thor, also go along. At home, Shin introduces each of his new friends to their grandparents. Then he explains the situation of the beautiful blue-haired girl, and to help her stay safe, he asks permission to change the defense of Cecily's uniform. Melinda then asks if Cecily is worthy of receiving such protection, and Shin responds by saying that he plans to take responsibility for it. But Melinda explains the real reason behind her question. She reveals that a uniform enchanted by him will become a national treasure that can be sold for an incredible sum, and that in 2,000 years' time, this uniform will be used by adventurer or hero as an item that will decide a battle. Cecily then begins to sob, and reveals that she has done something wrong. Taking advantage of Shin's kindness, she decides to refuse the help and leave, but then Melinda realizes that she is a very good girl, and encourages her to accept this treasure because of her honesty. She also makes everyone promise not to tell anyone about her enchantment, because if the population finds out that Cecily has received something like this for free, everyone will want it, and that will cause problems for Shin. In the end, everyone agrees. If it were in my kingdom, I'd put Shin in charge of being the #1 attacker, nuclear bomb boy, portable portal. If here in Brazil I have to buy myself a cell phone and go to the politician, why can't Shin? In the end, the outfit is ready, and Shin uses his search magic to keep her safe. While he takes her to school, she appreciates his kindness, but their morning romance becomes isolating for Maria. The school year has barely started and Maria is already holding a candle. At school, a yellow-haired girl comes running in just in time for class. The girl, called Alice Kurna, explains that she was so excited about her first day at school that she couldn't sleep. Congratulations to her. But these lines make Shin wonder why a world system allows a 15-year-old boy to be considered an adult. Does Alice look like an adult? She doesn't. The teacher arrives and immediately takes them on a tour of the school. He tells them about the different clubs, including magic, potions, and bodybuilding, and warns them to join one. Julius really admires the bodybuilding club, but knows he can't join. However, Augustus feels that this is a perfect opportunity for him to break free from his chaperones, and encourages Julius to join any club he wants. And when Shin is asked which club he would like to join, he replies that he has no idea. Augusto suggests that he form his own club, and the teacher and the whole class also support this initiative. But Thor raises an important question. What would be the purpose of the club? Alice suggests that Shin tell them all about the heroes, but it is revealed that there is already a fan club for the heroes, and in the end, the club was renamed the Best Magic Study Group. The next day at school, the group discovers that Kurt has been punished, and when Shin asks why, he acts so aggressively, like a fucking angry animal. Everyone explains that he wasn't always like this, and only changed when he started going to the lab, where a professor called Oliver conducted his experiment. Apparently, the only student who communicates with this teacher is Kurt, while the rest of the students don't even like studying, which is normal in a school. Time passes, and Shin's need to accompany Cecily ceases to exist. This makes Cecily sad, and Maria just watches her friend in love. However, her sadness goes away when Shin reveals that he will still accompany her, even though Kurt is no longer a problem. The girl is touched to know that he wants to accompany her, and almost asks him to marry her, but keeps quiet. He reveals to everyone his ability to sense evil intention. And before he has finished explaining, everyone is wondering if this is really possible. Then he explains that the power of demons is naturally evil, and the people with the most intentions glow a similar color to the two demons. Upon hearing this, Lin asks if he has ever hunted a demon before, and with an innocent smile on his face, he says that he has killed over 1,000 demons, which leaves everyone shocked. Shin doesn't stop showing off, and says that he hunted his first demon when he was 10 years old. The enemy was a demonized bear 3 meters tall, which he easily defeated. Outside the cafeteria, Shin senses an immune presence that turns out to be Kurt, who approaches them and immediately attacks them with his flame magic. Shin's barrier barely holds, so he tells the group to activate their uniform. They do so, and due to Kurt's power, Shin's hands are burned from the intensity of the heat, but his automatic healing kicks in to resolve the burns on his skin. They realize that Kurt is out to take their lives, so they prepare to fight. Kurt continues to disperse a negative aura as he slowly turns into a demon. Shin immediately asks August to take his friends to safety, while he beats the crap out of Kurt. At this point, August gets angry because Shin doesn't believe in his friends for this fight, but Shin says that they need to retreat for their own safety. August realizes that Shin is right and takes everyone to safety. Then, with no one to distract him, Shin activates his blue flames, ready to fight Kurt attack. However, while Shin tries to slow him down, but his small flames cause much more damage than expected. During the fight, Kurt starts swearing at Shin, which surprises him, as he was taught that demons shouldn't be able to speak. He then uses lightning magic on Kurt, and even though this magic causes some damage, it's not enough to stop the enemy's movement. While Kurt remains furious, Shin tries to think of a way to save this poor soul from dying soon, but the chances of him being able to save Kurt are looking less and less likely, as his magical powers have started to accumulate at such a high rate that Kurt is basically self-destructing. And realizing that Kurt's blast radius would destroy the school, Shin grabs his ultrasonic blade and rushes towards him, avoiding his attacks before killing him. He falls to his knees, realizing that he has just killed someone, and soon afterwards his friends arrive, surprised to see that Shin has emerged victorious against the demon. Now, however, Professor Oliver has his eye on Shin. When August arrives, Shin reveals that the circumstances of Kurt's transformation are absurd, and August agrees, since Kurt didn't have enough magical knowledge to cast a spell that would turn him into a demon by mistake. So August deduces that Kurt may have been artificially induced to become a demon, since Kurt kept his senses, unlike a normal demon. This leads to the conclusion that Kurt may have been the victim of a test on human being. Later that day, they arrive home to find the king at their aid waiting for Shin. He bestows a certain honor on the merit for having averted a crisis in his nation, which leaves Shin surprised, but Merlin confronts the king, who quickly explains that the incident had already spread throughout the country, and that now denying the award to the hero Shin would be impossible. He once again promises to keep Shin out of political matters, but this time he will have to accept the award as a hero, which Merlin eventually agrees to. The next day, Shin becomes the talk of the town, and this makes the walk to school rather uncomfortable, as all the girls now want to bride a powerful new Pokemon with him. But Sasiri has bonded him to Shin, which makes the girls understand that he is compromised. At school, everyone rushes to join Shin's club, and this makes the teacher worry, believing that the best thing to do is to put a limit on the number of students who can join a club. In the end, he decides that only those who have the ability to store items in another dimension can join this club. With everything settled, only Mark, who is the son of a blacksmith, and his childhood friend Olivia, whose family owns a diner, join this club. Alice and her friends are big fans of the food that Olivia's family makes, so Olivia promises to reserve a table for them, and Shin reveals that he would like to have a custom weapon, but Mark says that he can barely make a knife, so Shin will have to wait, as the sword he used to kill demons must have been exceptional. However, Shin explains that he used a normal sword, enchanted to vibrate at ultrasonic speed. However, since swords are thin, they break easily, so he explains that he wants a smoothly customized weapon. Yuri, a classmate with a charming profile, comments on how remarkable Shin's talent is, and since the girl is pretty and has sucked up to him, he offers to do what the girl wants. He wants to be introduced to Melinda, and the girl quickly accepts the offer. On the other side of the screen, there is that damn professor who is being investigated by the Order of Knights. All his options of escape are removed, so he is forced to expose that he was actually conducting experiments on human beings, and now that they all found out about it, he will eliminate them all. A man appears thinking he can defeat a professor with the insane look, and and as expected, he is easily soloed. So Shin is forced to try to stop this professor. Shin attacks him with his sword and with his flame simultaneously, but he blocks the attack with his shield and manages to evade all the attacks, all while Shin continues to try to cut him, but he can't get anywhere with his sword strike. He uses earth magic to put him in the air, in a position impossible to escape. However, Oliver can use magic to float, and Shin unexpectedly rises towards him with his equipment and lands a blow using his flame. However, Oliver pushes him back, using a powerful wave of energy. His glasses break, and it is possible to see that he is a demon who has perfectly controlled his body. Oliver is very proud of having reached a level that humans will not be able to surpass, and Shin does not give up and attacks Oliver on impulse, and everyone thinks he made a mistake, but in reality, he was just buying time to activate a devastating spell, which is based on concentrating sunlight on a single point. Shin activates dozens of rays of sunlight, which pierce the roof and hit Oliver. His blows result in a huge explosion. The area hit by the sun's rays turns to glass due to the heat of the sunlight, and even though Oliver was hit, Shin still believes that he may be alive. Shin thanks the court magicians for their help, even though they didn't help at all. But the important thing in these moments is to be humble and attribute all your merit to the government. The court magicians ask what the hell was that sunlight spell. When Shin starts to explain the effect of his magic, the magicians don't understand a thing. The next day, Shin and his friends go to the smithy run by Mark's family. Everyone is happy, but Shin is still sad because he believes that Oliver is still alive. Augusto is shocked to hear this, and Shin explains that his attack concentrated the sunlight and created glass craters on the ground, but he didn't feel that his magic had made direct contact with the enemy. He believes that the huge explosion was caused by Oliver so that he could escape safe. Augusto thinks this theory makes sense, so he asks Shin to order whatever he wants from the smithy. The royal family will pay his entire bill. The prince says that since Shin is the only one who can fight Oliver, they urgently need to equip him with the best equipment. With that said, they soon arrive at the blacksmith shop, where Mark and Olivia are waiting to welcome. The girls take Oliver to participate in a podcast about female culture, while the boys enter the weapons shop. But the owner of the shop is not happy to see so many people entering his store. He says that his products are not for shitty-ass children. But then, Augustus introduces himself as the crown prince. And upon hearing this, the blacksmith and all his employees kneel down and make Augustus beat his ass. Augustus introduces Shin to him, but he freaks out once again when he finds out that he is the grandson of the great sage and the new hero. Augusto reveals that Shin wants a special sword tailored to use his ability. After revealing the details, they leave the store and discover that Cecily and Maria have left the other girl tired. What did they do? Shin asks Mark that his family sells other things besides armor, and the boy says that they sell kitchen items, and on the third floor, they sell accessories. Shin then looks at Cecily and asks if she wants a pot to wash dishes, but the girl gets embarrassed and says that receiving a pot is like a marriage proposal, so she will only accept a wedding ring. However, Shin reveals that he just wanted to enchant anything for her to use so that she would be more protected, and the girl ends up feeling sad about it. He asks if the girl really doesn't want a pot or a washing machine, but she insists on just receiving a simple, more expensive wedding ring from the store. After buying it, he places the ring on the girl's hand and says that this item will protect her. A few days later, Shin is dressed for his award ceremony. He is presented to the royal court and applauded by high-ranking nobles. He is then awarded a medal by the king, and the court then announces that Shin is not to be used for military or political purposes. It is also explained to everyone that the consequence of breaking the agreement will result in Merlin and his family being expelled from the nation. Shin surprises everyone by arriving at the school with his gate magic, and he explains to everyone that he had to escape the crowd of fans at his house. He explains to a curious Lin that the concept of his gate consists of reducing the distance between two places, instead of the traditional teleportation, which uses a lot of mana, and of course she doesn't understand because she is stupid, so he encourages her, revealing that Merlin himself cannot understand the concept, since Merlin does not have a hack, and Shin does. He then suggests that the group themselves level up. After all, they are weak. Furthermore, the royal capital is becoming less safe, and he explains that they first need to learn how much magic everyone has. Contrary to the common belief that higher level spells require enchantment, Shin reveals to everyone that magic is all about the amount of magic, and that magic is the fuel for spell. First, he examines Maria's barrier, which seems very thin, like my big boy here. He then asks Cecily to make a barrier using the enchanted accessory he gave her, and when she does so, the barrier ends up being thicker, firmer, harder, and more veiny, and this only happens because the ring he gave her was enchanted to make her control of her magic more precise. Shin decides to demonstrate the amount of magic he can control to the group. However, when he does so, the density is so great that everyone almost suffocates from the pressure. Some even soil themselves with their own shit. Shin tells them that they will only be able to face a demon of that level when they can reach that level of magical control, that of making a person shit themselves just by releasing their power. If they don't reach that level, they won't stand a chance. He then takes everyone to his house, and his friends are very excited to meet the legendary sage Yaguru. Shin explains to his grandparents that there was another crowd in front of the school gate, and Merlin laughed, telling him that this is the price of being a celebrity. He then discovers that Shin is training his friends in his study club. Now the students ask Merlin if he was the one who taught Shin the strange magic spells that he masters, and he replies that after he taught the boy the basics, the boy began to invent magic for himself. Merlin says that normally magicians focus on visualizing the result of their spell, but Shin focuses on the process. He then asks the students if they know how fire burns, but they know nothing about combustion. Merlin says he doesn't know either, but he knows that his grandson knows something more, as if he were a man who once lived in a world where all the secrets had already been discovered and revealed to normal people, and that now this man has reincarnated into a fantasy world and is using all this to hack the world. Well, Merlin was completely right, because Shin is literally stealing, using his advanced knowledge to improve his magic, and he is not teaching it to anyone selfishly. While he steals, the rest of the wizards in this world are like monkeys, who scream and sing to recite spells. With that said, Merlin informs them that by using Shin's knowledge and explanation, they will all be able to become stronger. With that said, he activates his gate magic, which surprises Shin. The old man laughs and says that although it was initially difficult for him to understand, he eventually understood the principles behind it and was able to master this spell. He tells Shin's students that his grandson is not the only one who can use this magic, and Merlin reinforces his theory, saying that if one understands the principles well and visualizes the process accurately, one can activate a similar magic, and this gives everyone a spark of confidence. Lin held this confidence in her mind and went to practice, and the next day she arrives at school covered in bruises with her hair singed. Shin asks what happened to her, and she replies that she was practicing controlling her magic, but she lost control of it, and this resulted in a small explosion. Shin is worried about her, but Lin says that this is nothing new to her, because her father is a court magician. Later, Shin and his friends go to the blacksmith shop, and the first prototype of their special swords is ready. All they have to do is pull the trigger for the blade to be ejected, and Shin can put a new blade in its place. Basically, the guys stole Shinjeki's blade from what Odin put in his anime. Tony, the guy who gave Shin the idea in the first place, is quite impressed with the performance. Augusto asks Shin if he would mind if they used these special swords in their army, and he is obviously not talking about the ultrasonic sword, but the sword with replaceable blade. He believes that by doing this, they can keep their military budget low and improve their strength, which will be necessary soon because there is a chance of a new war with a neighboring country happening. The other students know this too, and they believe that if a war does break out, they will also be enlisted. Augusto tells them not to worry about it yet, and assures Shin that the country will keep its promise, and he will not be dragged into the war. But Shin replies that even if they don't summon him, he won't sit idly by if his friends are in danger, so if shit ever happens, he'll join the battle to protect them. Meanwhile, the surviving Oliver has already put his plans into action. He uses his Aseklas to instigate the Emperor of the Empire into a war, proclaiming that his enemies are already facing trouble with the demon. However, when the Empire's forces attack their enemies, they discover that their enemies were already ready for them. The Empire's army loses badly in the war, and then the Emperor receives news that the demons have been sighted in his capital. The Emperor instantly retreats, but by the time he reaches the capital, he sees that everything has already been devastated by the demon. When the Emperor reaches the throne room, he finds Oliver waiting for him there. He declares that he wants to kill him personally, and before the king can ask for help, Oliver binds him using his magic and then sends the king into oblivion. On the other side of the screen, the enemies enter the Empire to finish off their enemy once and for all, but instead they are met by a group of demons led by Oliver. They immediately retreat and report their discovery to the king, who realizes that they have a much bigger problem than war on their hands. Now the kingdom where Shin is put on high alert, and even the school seeks to improve everyone's movement and combat prowess. So training in conjunction with the Order of Knights is announced throughout the school. The class immediately falls into a deep depression, as the knights and mages do not have a very friendly relationship. Furthermore, the knights often call the magic students brutes, since they are weak, while they call the knights brawny brains, because all they need to do is hold a thick, heavy object and defeat their enemies. Shin tries to say that everyone should get along and praise each other, but he is verbally attacked by a friend who says that he can join either the knights or the mages. Shin then reveals the name of his physical arts teacher, and everyone is shocked, as that damn man is considered a sword saint. Unfortunately, Shin is unable to convince everyone to work in harmony with the knights. The next day, the knights and mages prepare to conduct a demon hunting army in a forest. Everyone is gathered outside the city gates, and Shin is with his little group of favorites, August, Cecilia, and Maria. Soon, the group of knights who will be keeping them company arrives, and without knowing that Shin is the great new hero, they all start badmouthing him, saying that they believe the hero will slow them down. They all introduce themselves, and Shin asks if they have ever fought a demon before, but they immediately take his question as an offensive statement. He reveals that failure to work together means certain death. However, a female knight with PM stands up to talk nonsense, saying that the knights are full of virility and that they defeat everything in front of them. The girl's attitude irritated August, so he asked Shin not to eliminate any demons and only to act at the right time, so that these knights would understand that they need the help of the magician. Arriving at the designated area, they are greeted by their supervisor, Christina and Siegfried. Shin begs them not to fight, but there are some things that are impossible even for a hacker. Out of nowhere, several girls start to gather around Sieg, and on the other side, Christina also deals with her fans. Shin reveals that he did not know that they had so many fans, but August tells him that these two are very popular since they are the king's main line of defense. But the prince does not intend to let anyone relax. He explains to the supervisors his idea of letting the knights start the battle alone, and that the magicians should only act when necessary. This way, the knights will understand their limit. The overseers agree to this, so everyone continues on, with the knights keeping their guard up. Along the way, Shin spots a demonic boar and becomes sad, because if it weren't for his demonic rock aura, this boar would make a great meal. Siegfried is warned that everyone is preparing to fight. However, the boar easily breaks their formation, and at the right moment, Shin acts by cutting the small animal in two with a single blow. The knights are scolded for not knowing their limits, and Christina makes sure to make them realize how weak they are. After this, Cecily heals their wound, and everyone becomes humble and expresses their strong desire to work together with the magician. Furthermore, they treat Cecily like a goddess, and this ends up irritating Shin, because he is already in love with the girl. But his Japanese blood does not allow him to realize this, and even if he does, he is unlikely to reveal it. A female knight is also angry, as she has never been treated like a princess. Out of nowhere, it is reported that over 100 demons are coming towards them. Shin confirms this with his detection, and then he proposes that everyone stay out of his way, so that he can exterminate the 100 demons alone. His proposal is accepted, so he takes the opportunity to vent his anger, using the mini-atomic bomb spell, which causes the 100 demons to be instantly eliminated. Unfortunately, his magic ends up leaving the entire forest in ruins. Not only that, but everyone goes crazy upon seeing the extent of Shin's power. And after witnessing such power, they all regret having spoken ill of the great hero Shin, and that girl with MPD also apologizes. And she also asks if Cecily and Shin are dating, and they both get cured upon hearing this, but the poor knight was only asking this to see if she could hit on Shin with more respect. After that, the group finally starts to work as a team. They encounter a demonic bear, and while the knights form the first line of defense, the mages start attacking the bear with fireball. The demon bear becomes agitated and distracted by the fire, giving the knights a chance to attack. Shin defends them from the bear's attacks using a magical barrier, and the knights attack from all sides. And when it's all over, Cecily reaches out to heal them. After that, the knights go there and call Cecily a goddess, despite knowing that she belongs to another man, and this irritates Shin again. Sig and Christine are impressed with the improvement in teamwork, and Sig goes there and asks why Shin's companions are stronger than average. And then, he reveals that he created a study group and has been passing on his legendary knowledge to each of them. Sig is quite curious about his group and says that he also wishes to learn from Shin, but August stops him and states that since he is a member of the army, learning Shin's magic will be a violation of his promise to Merlin. Not only that, but because Shin's magic is so strong, it could destroy the world if it falls into the wrong hand. August even lectures Shin, telling him to be careful not to spread magical knowledge any further, and Siegfried accepts his warning, and then requests that he at least be allowed to practice the basics taught by Merlin. August tells him that Merlin's teachings are simple, and that all he needs to do is practice his magical control every day, which will make him stronger over time. Sig thinks that August is hiding the truth, but August calls Maria and Cecily and asks them to demonstrate their progress. They perform the barrier magic, just as Shin showed them, and Siegfried is amazed at how thick and strong their barrier is. In Sig's eyes, this is all unbelievable, but August tells him that if he practices magical control every day, he will quickly achieve this result. Maria then says that her shield is thinner than Shin's, but she knows she can never surpass him because he is the son of the great sage. However, Sig motivates her to believe in herself because she is special. His words make this single girl's brain spin, and now Sig says that he will also practice magic control every day and will soon give his feedback to all of them. Shin then wonders how his friends are doing in their groups, and our hero's thoughts cause the scene to change to his friend. In another location within the forest, Mark, Olivia, Tony, and Julius are together with some acquaintances. One knight is particularly hostile towards Tony because they were friends in high school, but then Tony left him and join the Magic Academy. Suddenly, a wolf demon attacks them, and the knight runs to face it alone. Despite the supervisor's warning that it is not safe to act alone, he does so, and further ahead more wolf demons attack him, leaving the knights in trouble, but Tony and the other wizards help eliminate them, shooting the demons from a distance. The supervisor is surprised to see that the demons have been completely destroyed and only craters remain on the ground. Tony approaches his former friend, who still ignores him. His friends then ask if there is another reason for this hostility, and Tony thinks for a moment before realizing something else. His friend had a crush on a certain girl, but she confessed to Tony, and he dated her for a short period of time, which ended up annoying his friend a lot. Nobody likes a cheater. On the other side of the screen, another group ended up being formed by Lynn, Alice, and Yuri Thor, and the knights were making all sorts of sexist comments to provoke them. However, when they are attacked by a pack of small demon dogs, they reveal how pathetic they are, and the girls lose their patience seeing their weakness and take care of the demons with their magic. Lynn's magic goes out of control and suddenly explodes, causing minor damage to her group. Much later, everyone gathers at the city gate, and Shin finds Lynn's group with disheveled hair and discovers that they are like that because Lynn could not control her power. He also sees Tony and his former friend fighting, and the other students ask Shin what happened on his side, and Maria says that Shin and Cecilia were flirting with each other during the mission. They both blush at this, so Maria stops joking and says that with Shin supporting them, the problem with the knights was easily solved. All they had to do was apply dictatorship to them. Augustus takes the lead in the conversation and says that everyone in his study group, except Shin, will be placed under national supervision, as he believes that due to this trip they took with Shin, they have all become very strong and will form a special unit directly under his control. But even so, the other nations may try to get them on their side, so they must remain loyal to their kingdom. Shin ends up apologizing to his friends for having changed their lives so drastically, but everyone is really happy about it. They think it's amazing to have an elite job already secured. Even though they haven't even graduated, everyone asks Shin to teach them even more, and Shin realizes that if they are trained by him, one day they will all be able to save even the world. But for that to happen, they need to get much stronger. A few days later, Shin takes the girls from his study group to practice magic in the Greedy Mountains, and the evolution of their power ends up being terrifying, and Augustus comments that watching them is almost like watching the greatest magical power, the army of his nation, live. And Shin says that he brought them to this place because he is very familiar with this place, and here no one will watch him. After the training is over, Augustus addresses everyone and tells them some noble information about the demon. He states that this information is a state secret, but all the people here are no longer qualified to be just normal citizens. Once the war with the demons begins, they will be an important part of the army, dying on the front lines, so they must know as much as they can about their enemies. Augustus then reveals that now, the demons are wreaking havoc on the Beshan Empire, inflicting irreparable damage to both cities and villages, treating nobles and commoners quite equally when it comes to massacring them. And despite knowing this, his father cannot go to war with the demons without proper preparation. And the worst of all is that the number of demons does not stop growing. Shin believes that Oliver is still alive and is behind everything, and he knows that if someone ever needs to defeat this man, he will be the only person capable of doing it. That is why he proposes a training camp, so that he can make everyone strong enough to deal with the demons and their creator. Augustus suggests that they go to a place where they can relax and also train a lot. So Maria tells everyone to go to Cecilia's house, because her family owns a hot spring. Like a good Japanese, Shin loves the idea and immediately agrees. He tells his grandparents about it, and they support him. However, Melinda asks who will supervise them, and Shin reveals that he has no one to do it. So since leaving a bunch of young magicians alone is very dangerous, she decides to take on the job of supervising them, even though in reality she just wants to enjoy the hot spring. Merlin, if you don't know what he is, says that he will also participate in the supervision. Soon after that, they arrive at the city of Hot Springs, and arriving at Cecilia's mansion, Cecilia's employees welcome everyone, and apparently they have already accepted Shin as their future genius. Later, they take a dip in the hot spring, and Merlin thanks the boys for befriending Shin, as he has never had any friends his own age. Prince Augustus thanks Merlin, saying that he has never had a friend who treats him informally the way Shin treats him. He is happy that Shin treats him the way he wants, and the others also join in to give their testimonies about the impact Shin has had on their lives. Shin is like Jesus in everyone's lives. He saved them all. The next morning, everyone begins magic control training under Merlin's supervision. He gives personalized advice according to their performance, and as usual, Lynn releases too much magic that she cannot control. This time, Merlin tells her to stop and protects everyone from getting caught in her explosion. After that, Melinda also gives the students some lectures on magical equipment and chanting techniques technique. Then Shin takes them to the mountains for practical training, and the students explode magic spells without arcane spell. Watching them, Melinda thinks that they are already strong enough to take the work out of the magic department staff. However, Shin and Merlin think that they still need to improve. Shin knows that if they have to fight an army of demons released by that damned enemy, everyone here, including him, needs to get stronger. However, the others do not take his words seriously and immediately erect their magical barriers to protect themselves from the shockwave of the new spell that Shin is going to test. He first visualizes a highly combustible gas to create blue fireballs and then combines them into a giant fireball. After that, he creates a tornado around the fireball while pointing it forward. Up until now, Shin has used this spell as a wide area attack, but this time he plans to control its direction and make it a point-based attack. He unleashes the attack, and with his improved control of his power, he ends up destroying everything in its path. While Shin is happy that his new technique worked, Melinda hits him hard with her leg, calling him a fool. She asks him why the hell he needs a technique powerful enough to destroy 3 hills at once, and Shin angrily says that he didn't think this magic would be so powerful. However, she is not satisfied with his answer. The other students are also terrified by his power, and obviously no one believes Shin when he tries to say that this power was nothing special. With that, the class is dismissed, and while everyone is heading home, Augusto asks Shin to use the portal spell and take him to the castle so that he can get an update on the war situation. Shin agrees and takes him to the castle, where a grumpy blonde girl is waiting for the prince. Augusto is surprised to see her, and then tells Shin that this girl is his future wife, Alice. She introduces herself to Shin politely and starts attacking Augusto for going to camp and leaving her alone. Augusto's younger sister also arrives at this moment and says that she totally agrees with her future sister-in-law, although she doesn't miss her brother. She is upset with him because he is always camping with his idols. In response, Augusto teases her, saying that she will meet them soon, but when she notices Shin's presence, she becomes even more nervous. She introduces herself to him as a big fan of Belinda, and Shin thinks she is cute. Augusto asks the 2 girls what they are doing here, and they declare that they are going to camp with him. He is not ready to take them to the place, as he considers it dangerous, and he yells that they will never have permission from the king to do so. But he was wrong in assuming this, as his father tells him to take his fiancée and her younger sister to the camp. While Augustus is distraught by this, Shin just says so, realizing that he will have fun teasing him. Later, Shin takes everyone to the hot spring city using his portal, and Augustus' sister, Amai, is overjoyed to see that they are in a completely different city in a second. Augustus scolds her for getting too excited, and Shin holds out his hand to her. Amai takes it, and Augustus tells her to listen to everything Shin says, and not to stray from him. He then turns to his fiancée, and tells her that she can stay at the camp. However, there will be no one here to pamper her. She responds by saying that it is okay, as she is only here to make sure that Augustus does not get distracted by other things. Shin thinks she is jealous of the girls at the camp, but she says she is not worried about the girl. In fact, the cause of her worries is Shin, because every moment he spends with Augusto, she becomes even more irritated. Shin is immediately disgusted by the idea of her believing that something is going on between him and Augusto. However, the prince has a way with words and says out loud that she is the only person he wants to kiss and date. He reveals that Shin is just a new phase in his life, and that he was just testing to see if he liked her, but in reality he only wants her. The girl is touched by his words and decides to stop being angry with Augusto. Shortly after, they go to a restaurant to eat, and Augusto tells him that Shin already has a girlfriend, and he gets nervous. Augusto tells him to stop being a coward and make his position clear with Cecily, because it is obvious to everyone that they are both in love with each other. Shin is still in doubt and wonders what will happen if his obsession is wrong and his relationship with Cecily gets worse. In response, Augusto asks Shin if he is happy with the way things are now. He asks Shin if he plans to continue being a coward, because a real man should take action and not wait for the girl to do something. Even after Augusto guides him to the path of a real man, Shin is still a Japanese man, so he doesn't know what to do, and keeps thinking about the harem he could build if he doesn't confess his feelings to anyone. During a conversation between girls, Mai and Augusto's fiancée tell Cecily that Shin was talking a lot about her, and they also say that they make a very cute couple. The two blush upon hearing this, and Shin almost uses an ultimate magic to shut the 2 girls up. After that, the 2 greet the powerful old couple. Mai gets nervous when she sees Melinda in person, and Shin tells her that the girl is his big fan. She approaches Mai on her own and finds her very pretty. Melinda says that she wishes Shin had been as adorable as a child, but he was just a troublemaker who could never be left alone. Otherwise, he would go out and kill half the fort. Everyone agrees with her and wishes that her children would not be as troublesome as he was. Now Shin is discouraged, but then Cecily says that she disagrees with them. She says that Shin's children will certainly be wonderful, and she obviously blushes when she realizes what she just said. So while everyone everyone teases her for planning such a distant future, Cecily ends up getting nervous and running away, not letting the moment slip away. Augusto tells Shin that this should make it clear that Cecily is really interested in him and that he needs to wake up, otherwise the girl will find a real man. Later that night, when Shin is out for a walk, he finds Cecily sitting alone. He approaches her, but neither of them knows what to say. After some awkwardness, Cecily apologizes for the thoughtless words she said earlier, and Shin replies that he was a little happy to hear that. After that, they start to reminisce about their first meeting, and Shin admits that the first time he saw her, he felt a lightning bolt strike his heart. She responds by saying that she also found him to be a very handsome man, and upon hearing this, Shin finally gathers enough courage to declare his love to Cecily, and she starts to cry with joy upon hearing it. She replies that she loves him too, and Shin asks her to become his girlfriend. She agrees, and they set off to have their first kiss. However, their friends were spying on them, and they came out of hiding at the last moment, preventing the two from having their first kiss. Not only his friends, but his grandparents are also there to see him become a real man. This day was so crazy that it was even announced in front of everyone that Shin and Cecily are dating, and a noble follower of Cecily also comes out of the bushes to congratulate them. Auguste also congratulates Shin, but asks him not to get carried away by romance to the point of neglecting his training. Shin asks him why he would have prepared all this for his confession, and Auguste responds by saying that a man who postpones his confession because of the war never lives to do so. The next day everyone arrives at the beach, and Shin says that they are not here to have fun, but to train. Although we know that beach training is basically fanservice, what they will do here is train by throwing and using magic on the ball. The game begins and Alice throws the ball high into the sky, before jumping after it using the physical reinforcement spell. She hits the ball down with all her strength, but Olivia receives it well. Thor prepares the ball for Tony to hit with his bow magic. Auguste lifts it with his wind magic, and then Lynn jumps and hits the ball with her flame spell. The flaming ball goes straight to Yuri, who tries to use a water shield, but she can't stop the ball, and so the first point is scored, while everyone else is also excited to play. Shin wonders if it's so easy to be good at volleyball. Suddenly, a fire shot comes towards Prince Damai's cave, but Merlin quickly blocks it using his magic barrier magic, thus saving the girls. Afterwards, while the girl lectures those responsible for the missed shot, Merlin says that he believes this game is a good way to practice magic control, and tells everyone to keep playing, even if some lives are lost. After playing all day, everyone gathers at the mansion at night, and Shin discovers that everyone present has known Auguste and his girl since they were 5 years old. Basically, royalty and nobility throw a party when their children turn 5, and everyone of the same age is invited. They start talking about party, their love stories, and their relationships, when Shin suddenly realizes something and tells everyone to calm down. With that, we see Melina entering the room and telling them to go to bed early, because tomorrow they will have to train again. However, the lights are off, and everyone is hiding in their bed. They almost manage to escape, but somehow, Shin and Cecilia end up in the same bed, and she can't keep her moan, and it's her panting under control because of his touch. Thanks to this, Melina finds them, and they all end up getting scolded a lot. The next morning, the two lovebirds meet in the hallway and blush as they remember the plot development they had the night before. Shin tries to end the conversation, saying that they should go have breakfast, but before that Cecilia tells him that she has a request to make of him. She wants him to meet her parents and officially declare his relationship with her. She wants him to do this before her father leaves for work. Shin thinks this is a good idea, but as soon as he is in front of Cecilia's parents, he is speechless. A true coward, he takes a deep breath and gathers all his courage and politely tells them that they are dating. He reveals that he came here to ask for their blessing. Shin worries that her parents will not take this news well, but contrary to his beliefs, they really don't care. Cecilia's father holds his hands and thanks him for choosing his daughter. Shin is stunned by this reaction, but Cecilia's mother tells her husband to calm down a bit. She has one question for Shin before accepting him as her daughter's boyfriend. She says that they are from a noble family and that they cannot allow a daughter of a noble family to date without being engaged to her lover. She asks Shin if he is ready to get engaged to her, and he confidently says that he is a hater of the god and that he only wants a girl for his life. After he says such beautiful words, both of Cecilia's parents accept him as their daughter's boyfriend. Soon after that, they return to the mountains to train and find Tony and Thor throwing fireballs continuously. Augusto's girl is shocked to see this, but Shin tells her that this is just a warm-up. Roland approaches her and Mike and asks if they are also interested in training a little. The prince's girl refuses, saying that she has no talent for magic, but Mai is interested. Merlin starts the class with some basic magic control and discovers that Mi has a lot of potential, as does Merlin and Melinda. He praises her, which makes all the girls jealous. Lynn decides that she won't lose to anyone and concentrates her magic, but once again she overdoes it and blows herself up. After that, Shin decides to create a new type of magic, and his friends hide behind magical barriers because they don't trust his experiments to be safe for them. When Shin picks up a rock, everyone reinforces their magical barriers even more, but he says that there is no need for everyone to worry because he is not creating an offensive magic. Shin then releases a large amount of magic and begins to pour it into the rock. He uses his newly created spell, and suddenly the rock begins to float in the air. Shin says that his test was a success, and everyone else can't believe their eyes. They ask him to explain his new spell in more detail, and Shin says that it is an anti-gravity or levitation magic. Nobody understands anything he says, but they agree that Shin did something amazing. However, he says that this was just a test, and that the real show is about to begin. He casts an anti-gravity spell on himself, and floats in the air. He then uses his wind magic to move around. He laughs at the result, because although he can't control himself completely, doing this ends up being a lot of fun, and everyone else is surprised. Shin ends up revealing to everyone that the enemy called Oliver, the one with the demonic power, also used this type of floating magic. That's why he developed this magic to combat him. Later that night, Shin tells his grandparents that he is engaged to Cicely. They are surprised by this sudden news, and Shin apologizes for not having informed them about it earlier. Cicely tries to defend him and take the blame, but Melinda and Merlin have no problem with it. On the contrary, they expected it to happen sooner or later. However, before making the engagement public, Melinda wants to meet Cicely's parents, so they visit them. There, Merlin and Melinda reveal that they are not related to Shin by blood, and they wanted to inform Cicely's parents about this matter, because they believed that one of the main reasons they accepted Shin was because he is their grandson. In response, Cicely's father says that he is disappointed in Merlin and Melinda for thinking so little of his family. He says that they are not self-interested, and reveals that the reason they agreed to the engagement was not because Shin is their grandson, but because he values Cicely very much, and constantly tries to keep her safe. Those who are fools believe this. All they really want is money, power, and fame. As the script goes, Shin's grandparents are very happy to hear this, and thanks Cicely's parents for being so kind. Afterwards, Shin thanks his grandparents for raising him so well, and both of them are moved to tears when they hear this. A few days later, Shin presents new clothes to all the members of his group. These new clothes have advanced defense enchantment, camouflage options, and temperature control. Everyone notices that their uniforms are now beyond the level of a national treasure. Shin then tells all of them that he didn't put any special enchantments on his boots, because it's difficult to use them otherwise. And out of all these super strong idiots, Augusto is the only one smart enough to realize that Shin is giving them updated uniforms, because the training that comes next will be much more dangerous. Everyone panics when they hear this, and Shin says that today they will organize a real combat training and they will take down a catastrophe-class demon. They don't believe they will be able to do it, but Shin assures them that they are already strong enough, and besides, their uniforms will ensure that they won't get hurt. Mi complains, saying that she also wants to join them, but Augusto forbids her, because today's training will be too dangerous. Since the grotto doesn't stop complaining, Shin has an idea. He creates a primitive telephone using paper cups and demon spider silk, and tests it by talking to Mi after entering another room, and now she can practice using the telephone while everyone is training. Suddenly, Melinda arrives at where Mi was, and as soon as she sees the telephone, she attacks Shin for having created something out of this world again. He gets tired of her irritation, so he hangs the telephone on a statue and runs away with his friend. They enter the forest, and Cecily uses sensory magic to pinpoint the location of a catastrophic class demon. The demon turns out to be a demonized lion, and Shin says it's slow but powerful, in that Souls-like way that attacks late. Cecily says they should use ranged attacks to fight it, and he pats her on the head to compliment her, telling them what to do as a mage in Souls-like is much easier. The bachelors in the group are now happy to see them flirting happily, so Shin quickly changes into a businessman. Now it's time to fight, so a bunch of useless people with random names are put together a team to fight the demon lion, and Augusto is worried because all these people are just extras, but Shin believes they're already strong enough to defeat a demon. The lion notices them, and Shin gives them the command to get ready. So, when Shin gives the signal, they fire at the demon lion, and when the attacks of various elements hit the lion from all sides, he realizes how screwed he is. Just like that, a giant explosion shook the entire forest, and Shin realizes that sending 5 people to fight a mere catastrophic class demon was a complete exaggeration, because now there is only a crater in the ground where the demon used to be. It is at this moment that Shin realizes that if the extras are this strong, the main characters can probably defeat a catastrophic class demon by themselves. He tests this theory, and it ends ends up actually working, and of all of them, the only one who learned how to use Shin's ultrasonic blade was Tony, because he knows how to make his hand vibrate in the bathroom. Later that night, Shin gets dressed up really nice because now his engagement party is going to happen. Cecily comes to his room to welcome him, and the bastard can't take his eyes off her. They get too lost in each other's sight, but Cecily's mother arrives and tells them to hurry down because the guests are waiting for them. They receive a warm welcome from their friends and family, and even the king, who congratulates them. Later that night, Shin and Cecily go to the balcony, where he takes an engagement ring out of his pocket and formally proposes to her. Cecily offers him her hand, and he places the ring on her finger, and with that they finally kiss, and thus the anime ends. But no. The next day, Shin teaches his entire troupe to fly. He simply casts anti-gravity magic on them, and they use wind magic to control their flight. He also invents the loudspeaker and connects it to the telephone he created earlier in order to inform his friends to get down, as it is time for the second batch to take flight. Meanwhile, in the Blastia Empire, Oliver and his demon army have finally destroyed all the nearby cities and towns in a logical manner. He receives this news from his lieutenants, Zest and Miria. Miria reflects on how the demon squad led by Zest attacked a group of merchants, making food scarce and more expensive. Thus, while the nobles continued to live lives of luxury, the common people went hungry, and Oliver used their resentment to transform them into demons. These demons then massacre all the nobility and destroy the nearby city, bringing the empire to ruin. Miria is not entirely on board with Oliver's way of acting. While she understands his hatred for the nobles, she does not like the fact that many commoners have lost their lives in his war. Shortly after this, Oliver calls a meeting of all the demons under his control. He thanks them all for their humble and great work, and the demons rejoice. However, Oliver states that his goal was to overthrow the empire, and now that it has happened, he has nothing left to do. The demons are not happy to hear this, and declare that they must continue conquering the nearby kingdom, and thus eventually take control of the world. Oliver tells them that they can do whatever they want, but he says that he does not share their ambition. One demon decides to leave on his own, and Oliver tells him that he is completely free to do so. He even encourages the other demons to leave if they have any ambition, and after many of them have left, Miria asks Oliver why he hates the empire so much. She says she has heard stories that he was once an imperial duke, and it is at this point that Oliver realizes that he has never shared his sad story, and since they have been together for so long, he thinks this is the right time to do so. He tells them that his story began 2 years ago, when he was a normal human. At the time he was a duke, but despite his noble position, he often mingled with common people and helped them with their farming. His territory was prospering under his visionary policies, and his wife would soon give birth to their first child. However, because of his pro-commoner policy, Oliver ended up making many enemies, including a man who would later become the emperor himself. The nobles were not pleased with Oliver's growing wealth and influence, so the future emperor came up with a plan. He asked the nobles to summon Oliver to the capital and keep him there for as long as they could, during which time he would bring about Oliver's downfall. Soon after, Oliver received a letter from other nobles. They said that they were also eager to adopt his grand plan. He was overjoyed to read the letter and decided to attend the meeting they were holding about the policies. His wife was worried because she knew that some nobles were jealous of her husband, but Oliver was one of the best magicians in the entire empire, and she was confident that he could handle anything. A few days after Oliver left his territory, people suddenly began to disappear, and the nobles planted rumors about it, saying that they had been kidnapped and sold into slavery by Luke himself. More and more people began to believe the rumors that portrayed Oliver as a villain. They even called him a fascist. A few weeks later, they even staged a kidnapping, and the fake police sent by the nobles showed the commoners some kidnapped girls in a wagon belonging to Oliver. This angered everyone, and they decided to take matters into their own hands. They set Oliver's mansion on fire with the guy's pregnant wife still inside. When Oliver returned to his territory, he was devastated by the sight of his house in flames. Obviously, seeing his dead wife broke his heart, and he asked the townspeople why they had done such a cruel act. They then blamed him for kidnapping people and selling them into slavery. They all told him that the imperial police had provided enough evidence proving that he committed such act, and that was why they killed his wife and not him. It was at this moment that Oliver realized that the nobles had conspired against him to destroy him. He went mad and cursed the people who had received his kindness. Not only that, but he cursed the entire empire, which had allowed the evil nobles to do whatever they wanted in their territory. Oliver was overcome by his grief and anger, and a dark energy began to spread around him. He then declared that he would destroy the people and the empire. It was at this moment that he transformed into a demon, and with his transformation into a demon alone, he released enough energy to completely destroy his city. At the end of the destruction, he laughed and swore that he would destroy the empire from the emperor to the last commoner. After hearing his story, Zest thinks that since he has started to destroy the Empire, he needs something else to do now, which is why he tells his assistant to attack a small kingdom nearby, as this would force Shin to come out and fight them. Meanwhile, in the capital, the coronation ceremony of Prince Augustus is being held, when suddenly a messenger arrives with news that demons have been spotted near the border. Everyone panics upon hearing this, but Augustus tells them to calm down, as they have a special unit that is perfectly capable of fighting the demon. He then calls Shin up on stage and introduces him to the audience as the new hero who stopped a demon attack on the Magic Academy. Augustus says that they have become stronger thanks to him, and then takes off his cape to reveal the battle uniform he is wearing underneath it. He then tells Shin to address the audience and give a cool performance that will calm their hearts, and also asks him to come up with a cool name for the group. The first part of the request is easy, but Shin struggles to come up with a name, so he finally declares that they are the best magician. With that said, Shin casts floating magic on everyone, and they fly towards the border to take care of the demons. At that moment, in the small neighboring kingdom, the Knight Commander and his soldiers notice a horde of demons heading their way. He realizes that his country is doomed because they are not strong enough to face the demons, and even if they send out a request for support to the other kingdoms, it will take about a week for reinforcements to arrive. He calls all available magicians and orders them to use their strongest barrier magic to defend the castle walls from the demons' attacks. They block the first wave of demon attack thanks to special defense equipment. Meanwhile, Shin and his group are flying towards the neighboring kingdom, and when they arrive at the neighboring kingdom, they will introduce themselves as Ultimate and Magicians, because it is already too late to change the name Shin chose. While Augusto teases him about it, Lin says that she thinks that is a very good name. She says the girl who only sends explosions. Maria flies up to him and says she's nervous about fighting a demon, but Shin tells her to cheer up because she's stronger than a demon now. He then asks Cecilia to stay behind and take care of the wounded instead of fighting. As for the others, Shin tells them to form pairs and defeat the demons one at a time. The kingdom is now completely surrounded by demons, who continue to bombard the city with attack. They also toy with the civilians who are running for their lives. When a pair of demons are about to kill a woman and her daughter, Shin kicks them in the face and sends them flying. The demon's partner gets angry and tries to fight them. He tells Shin that he's a mere human like him and can't face them. He draws his weapon and begins to release his magic. And it is at this moment that Shin releases his blue flame cannon, making the demon piss himself in fear. With just one shot, Shin annihilates the demon, and in the meantime, Thor takes care of the second demon. After that, they help the mother and daughter to get up, and they show them the way to the rescue center. Shin gets furious when he looks around and sees death and destruction everywhere, but then he notices Auguste and Maria in a high tower. Auguste addresses the people of the country and says that they are reinforcements from the neighboring kingdom and that they are here to protect them from the demon. Then he calls the demons and tells them to give up quietly because they are facing the new hero Shin, who is famous for killing several demons alone. The people rejoice and cheer when they hear this, but the demons are even more eager to fight. The group splits into pairs of two and spreads out across the city. Shin tells one companion to go to the rescue center and heal the people, and asks him to be careful on the way as well. Neither of them notices that Zest's assistant is nearby, and he wants to test Shin's skill. Meanwhile, Alice and Aline form a team and find their first target using the search spell. They come across a demon who hunted down a group of knights without much difficulty. The demon mocks them for being flatter than a Sufi board and asks if they are here to play with Barbie dolls or something. This infuriates Alice, and she charges forward while activating her flame magic. However, Aline hits her with the water spell and puts out her fire, playing against her own team. In effect, she tells her that this is no time to get carried away by her emotions, as they are dealing with the demon. After hearing this, Alice calms down and says that she will fight more patiently now. However, Aline says that the demon is already dead. She hit him with a high-pressure water attack while Alice was distracted. Suddenly, she hears the scream of a knight who is being tortured by a demon. The demon toys with the knight and launches a destructive attack at him, but Aline and Alice arrive just in time and block it with their magical barrier. This demon also says that Alice is smoother than a skeleton. Then she gets angry and hits him with a powerful fire spell, which doesn't even leave his ashes behind. After that, they help the knight to get up, but he tells the girls that he can walk alone to the rescue center. With that, the girls decide to compete to see who can get the most demon. In another place, the one with eyes blocks a demon that tries to face Thor in hand-to-hand combat, and when a second demon launches its attack at them, Thor blocks it with his barrier. At the same time, he releases a blade of wind to cause a deep wound in the Nebony. Thor asks the demon if they are doing this on Oliver's orders, but he refuses to talk and attacks him again. Thor uses a blade of wind to deliver several blows to him and make him kneel. He asks the demon why he and the other demons are trying to ruin this country, and he answers by saying that this is their basic instinct. As demons demons, now their duty is only to destroy things. He shouts that they were filled with hatred for the nobility that oppressed them, and when they transformed into demons, these feelings exploded and gave them the desire to destroy everything. He prepares to fight again, but he and his partner are quickly defeated. In another location, two demons have cornered some knights against the wall, and suddenly a magic circle appears under one of them. The unlucky demon freezes instantly, and his partner finds Yuri on a nearby rooftop. He is about to attack her, but Tony charges in with his ultrasonic blade and cuts down two demons with a single blow. At the same time, the demon team discovers the existence of the rescue center and decides to attack it. Mark is on guard duty at the site, nervously holding a sword to fight the demons. A demon runs towards him, but a huge concrete block hits him, and he is crushed under it. Olivia declares that she will protect her boyfriend, and the second demon tries to attack her, but is set on fire by Mark, who declares that he will keep his girlfriend safe. The first demon gets up while cursing them, but they launch a combined attack to defeat it instantly. Inside the rescue center, Cecilia is struggling to treat the growing number of injured. Meanwhile, Shin is wiping the floor with demons and eliminating many of them with each attack. They attack him from all sides, but he uses a variety of spells to completely annihilate them. His assistant and his spy have been spying on him this whole time, and now the spy is sweating, because Shin is much stronger than he could have imagined. He was here to judge his weakness, but now he thinks Shin is a weak point. In another location, August and company have eliminated all the nearby demon. Only the leader of the demons is missing, who believes that the prince is the boss of the human group, and he wants to kill him to scare everyone. August laughs and says that the name of his group is the Ultimate Magicians, and tells the demon that he is not the leader, nor is he the strongest. However, he agrees that if they eliminate the leader, the others will become discouraged, and he intends to do this to the demon leader. He challenges the demon to attack him first, but Maria suddenly launches a surprise attack on the demon. However, he defends himself against her sneak attack by using two humans as shields. The demon then throws these two people towards them, and when Maria tries to dodge, he is hit with a powerful punch. Thanks to his special defensive armor, most of this damage is absorbed, and if this had not happened, Maria would have suffered several broken bones. The demon grabs her arm and throws her against a wall, but despite this, she is still fine. She inserts a magic into the uniform, and the wounds on her body begin to heal. The demon notices this and realizes that the parts not covered by the uniform are still vulnerable. Maria tells him that it is useless, because even if he noticed this, she attacks him with a fireball, which results in a huge explosion. She does not stop and continues bombarding him with fireball. And then, when the smoke clears, she discovers that the demon is unharmed. He used a special defense tool that he got after defeating some mages from the kingdom. Augusto and Maria realize that this defensive tool is quite strong, and the demon taunts them, telling them to try attacking him now. Maria and Augusto look at each other and immediately run in opposite directions to flank the demon. Augusto attacks him with lightning magic, but the demon easily blocks it using the tool, and then Maria attacks from the other side, and he continues to block the relentless attack, but soon begins to lose confidence because his opponents do not seem to tire. Suddenly, there is a lapse in his concentration, and his barrier weakens. It shatters just like that. He is hit by Maria's fireball. As soon as the demon gets up after this attack, Augusto hits him with a lightning spell and creates a perfectly circular hole in his chest. The demon dies with this, and Augusto and Maria continue with their mission. Zest's assistant is shocked when he discovers that not only Shin, but the entire human team is strong enough to defeat the demons, and he wonders how he can deal with these humans. Even Oliver Hagg's loyal followers believe that Shin is too powerful to be defeated by ordinary demon. They think it is unwise to sacrifice more troops, and that what must be done now is to remove all the demons from there, which is why this demonette takes charge of distracting the magicians and giving the demons a chance to escape. She melts and blows up the heavy door that protects the city, and then causes huge explosions everywhere. She easily overpowers the knights and is about to send their commander to infinite oblivion, when suddenly Lynn and Alice arrive on the scene. They block the demonette's attack using their barriers, and ask the knight commander to retreat, as he will only slow them down. The woman then asks who these girls are, so they strike a pose worthy of shame, and declare that they are the best magicians. Having said that, Alice attacks with her lightning magic, but the enemy is very fast and dodges the attack easily. Soon after, Alice attacks her neck, but she dodges and attacks her from behind. Alice escapes without taking much damage, and heals herself using her uniform. The enemy is surprised to see that her uniform works, so Alice attacks again, She counters her attacks, and when Alice tries to protect herself, the enemy slides under her and knocks her down. Shin tries to attack her, but the enemy holds Alice as a shield. On the other hand, Zest, the assistant, receives a message that the boss is here. He immediately orders all the demons to retreat, but they refuse to do so. Suddenly Shin arrives and begins to burn them with his blue flame. This causes the demons to feel terror in their hearts, and after seeing the blue fire eating away, the demons end up running away. He continues to attack them as they flee, but then they reach the rooftop. It is at this moment that Shin uses his floating magic to chase them. He then launches a devastating beam to destroy all the demons. However, some escape by jumping over the wall, and Shin is forced to stop his attacks when some knights get close. Suddenly, he notices huge explosions in the distance. Apparently, the enemy is fighting Lin, and thanks to the fact that she has Alice as a hostage, she easily defeats her. Yuri and Tony also arrive there and decide to support them. Yuri attacks from behind, but she simply takes Alice into the attack. Alice uses her barrier to protect herself from the attack, but this does not stop her from colliding head-on with Yuri. They are spotted, and Tony tries to protect them with his ultrasonic blade. He swings it as the enemy rushes at him, but she easily dodges the blow and disarms him before breaking her barrier. She then launches a devastating attack against Tony at point-blank range, and he ends up being thrown against the wall. Suddenly, a beam of light comes towards her, but she dodges it and knocks Lin down, trapping her between the rocks. Alice is now back on her feet and releases her magic to attack her enemy. However, she aims her next attack at Tony, and Alice is forced to run to defend him, and when she uses her barrier to deflect the enemy's attack, she ends up being knocked out when the rock attack hits her stomach. Now only Yuri is left, and she trembles in fear as the enemy approaches her. Suddenly Shin arrives and tells her to stop. She obeys, and waits for him while he frees Lin and heals her. Shin is furious to see his injured friends, and asks Yuri to take care of them. The enemy is curious to see how strong he is, and goes towards him. Shin attacks with his ultrasonic blade, but she easily dodges it and encases him in a stone prison. Shin breaks through it, only to find her enemy charging at him. He blocks her attack using his barrier, resulting in a huge explosion. Now it is Shin's turn to counterattack, and her enemy barely dodges a blow from her ultrasonic blade. Suddenly Alice and the others arrive to support Shin, and her enemy realizes that this is her chance to escape. She runs into Shin's light, grabbing a grotto's face in the process and smashing it into the ground. Shin uses his jet boots to chase her, but his path is blocked by a wall of ice that was thrown by Zest's assistant. To make matters worse, the demons plan an attack with an insane amount of magical power. Shin looks at his friends who are barely holding on and thinks that they will all die if the attack hits them, and as the enemy's destructive attack is unleashed upon them, everyone does their best to protect themselves. Of course, Shin uses all his power to create a giant barrier to save everyone. He tries his best and pushes the explosion upwards, but when the smoke clears, he discovers that the demons have disappeared. Luckily, all of his friends are still safe. They regroup and comment that the demon woman must have been a high-level mage given her strength. Augusto is confused about the reason behind this attack and wonders what Oliver is thinking. But the important thing now is that everyone is safe, and Shin even reflects that this attack could have defeated them all. Augusto tells everyone to rescue the people and take care of the demons, but advises them to be cautious this time. Shin and Augusto head to the rescue center and discover that things are very serious there. Besides Cecilia, Mark and Olivia are also busy healing the injured people. They report the number of injured people and say that Cecilia is healing the most serious ones inside. Augusto decides to call everyone to help with the treatment and asks Shin to support his girlfriend. Inside, Cecilia is nearing the end of her magic, but she still strives to save as many lives as she can. Soon, she loses her magic power, and the treatment of her patient is interrupted. She cries, saying that there is nothing more she can do for him, as his injuries are too serious. Suddenly, she begins to undress, saying that her clothes are imbued with self-healing magic, and that if she dresses a patient with her clothes, he could still be saved. However, Shin arrives in time and covers her with his coat immediately. He tells her that his injuries are too serious to be healed by the uniform or by her, but he believes that she can still save people. It is at this point that Shin steps in and uses a great deal of magical power to heal a man. He heals the injured organ, one part at a time, leaving the man completely out of danger. And while the patient's wife thanks Shin, Cecilia ends up being overcome by an inferiority complex. As they leave the room, she grabs Shin's uniform, saying that he is too amazing and that she could never do what he does. She starts crying, saying that she is so useless and that she always needs his help, and he tells her that this is not true. Shin tells her that the reason the man is still alive is because she kept him alive using her magic, and says that he is not the only one who can help people. He points to the people she saved, and everyone thanks Cecilia, calling her hot. After that, the supreme magicians deal with the king, and he thanks them for saving his kingdom. August tells the king that there are some things about this incident that don't sit well with him, because he has no idea why Oliver would attack attack such a small nation after destroying an entire empire. He tells the Swedish king that Shin has fought Oliver before and driven him away, and that this should make him aware of their power. However, Oliver keeps attacking everyone, which is why August wants to form an alliance with the Swedish king, and he agrees to join forces in the future. After this, the group reunites, and Shin thinks that they should be ready for another demon attack at any moment. August was thinking the same thing, and they all declare that they will protect the world together. Soon after, they return to the capital using gate magic, and find a group of knights and mages waiting for them. They throw a party to celebrate the fact that the supreme mages have driven away the demons, and Shin gets a headache hearing the ridiculous name he made up. He doesn't even know if he's the ultimate magicians or if he's the Supreme Court magicians. What matters now is that soon, everyone else will also arrive to congratulate them on their achievements. And with things happening, August tells his father that he has a report to make and tells him about the alliance with the Swedish king. He then asks his father for permission to contact the other nations and invite them to join the alliance as well. The king gives him permission to contact each nation, and Shin receives permission from his grandparents to join August on his journey. The girls who are part of August's family also want to participate in this, and although August is against it, his father ends up giving permission for this kind of shit to happen. The next day, the supreme magicians set off on their journey to save the world from the danger of demons. And so the anime Kenya no Mego ends. Did you like this video? Want to see more? Like, share, and comment what you thought. Anyway, a big kiss to everyone. Bye and see you in the next video. I'm gone.